Welcome to the Permian Strategic Partnership podcast. I'm your host, Krista Escamilla. The Permian Strategic Partnership is a coalition of 29 leading Permian Basin Energy companies and higher education institutions who join together to work in partnership with leaders across the region to foster superior public schools, quality healthcare, a trained workforce, and safer roads. PSP's mission is to address current and future challenges to the responsible development of the vast oil and natural gas resources of the Permian Basin in the states of New Mexico and Texas. The goal of this podcast is to share the stories of how this one-of-a-kind public-private partnership is impacting communities across the Permian Basin. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our very first episode of the Permian Strategic Partnership podcast. I'm so excited to be sitting here today with the president and CEO, Tracee Bentley. Tracee, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Krista. We are very excited about this new venture together.
This is going to be exciting. I think the things that I have seen for the past 5 years that you have had this organization together have been amazing, and we just really can't wait to share all the amazing opportunities that are ahead of us and what you've done already in the past. So let's start with what you've done in the past 5 years. I know that's a lot to ask, right? But wrap up the last 5 years if you can, and exactly what impact you have seen as the CEO.
Absolutely. Well, we started off the Permian Strategic Partnership with 10, and then 10 grew to 20, and now we're at 30 companies. Wow. And two of those members are university systems. And so, number one, we've just grown exponentially in the number of members and interest that we have in making our region even better than it is right now. Over the course of 5 years, PSP has spent about $150 million of our own in these investments, as you said, in healthcare and education, safer roads and workforce. But we've been able to take that $150 million and transform it into over $1.5 billion. And that has been through public-private partnerships, getting the federal government, the state governments in both Texas and New Mexico, along with other interested organizations and companies to join us. And so PSP's, one of our goals is to be a catalyst in each of these areas of change. And I think we've done that in 5 years, but we're just getting started.
Absolutely. And that's what I see from an outsider in. I see, year after year, it just keeps growing and getting bigger, and the change that has been seen. Let's start with maybe one of the biggest impacts that you have seen. Would it be in roads, in healthcare? Where would you say the biggest impact has been felt so far?
I would definitely say in healthcare or roads. I mean, in healthcare alone, we knew that even before COVID, we've been known as a behavioral health or mental health desert out here. And we also know that many people want to seek the help that they need in behavioral health. We just didn't have access. And so one of the very first things that we did was invest in behavioral health resources, and we expanded Permian Basin counseling and guidance so that no matter how small of a town you live in, so you could live in Pecos or Jal, New Mexico, or Artesia, now there are resources available to you and to your family and your community that didn't exist before. And you can imagine the stories that we have heard about through the services that we provided about literally lives being saved, families being transformed because they have access to the care that they need as a family. I mean, it will bring tears to your eyes hearing those stories.
Absolutely. And that's what it's about. It's about the people of the Permian. And as we all know who live here and love the Permian Basin, we know there have been challenges through the years. And I've been here 25 years, and one thing that stands out amongst all the challenges is the people want to help each other and come together. And that's what I love about your organization, is that you have brought together, usually you don't think of competition getting together in the same room, but you have over 30 competitors together all going for the same goal. How does that feel for you to see that actually work? And as a leader, maybe you can give me an example of where it has worked.
You're exactly right, Krista. We couldn't find another model of this nature where you have at least 28 fierce competitors. And let's be honest, the university systems are pretty competitive in their own right. And so We couldn't find another spot or organization where they were all working together, where when you walk through our door, that competition is put aside and now we're all on one team, which is pretty amazing in and of its own right. But then to have some of the very top leaders in the energy space and in academics coming together trying to solve very complex problems in each of these areas, I also have some of the best minds working on this stuff. So when it comes to healthcare, for example, we know that we have to view healthcare in a different way than some of our urban friends do, because we're the size of Minnesota in the Permian Basin, but we have less than 1 million people here. Healthcare looks different for us than it does for Dallas or Houston or Austin and Santa Fe and Albuquerque, and so we have to be really innovative. But we've got the resources and the willpower within PSP to do that, and we are doing that.
I love that. From your standpoint, what is it that you are doing on the daily basis to bring these entities together and then to make the change?
Sure. Well, communication is always key.
Hey, like this podcast.
Like our podcast. But what I have found over 5 years is we can do better. Okay. Not only communicating our message to the Permian and say, here's what we're doing, how can we connect you? We like to be connectors as well to the right people, but also internally because we are so big. I have a board of 30. They're the chancellors and the CEOs largely of these companies. And then we want to make sure that not only are they informed in what we're doing and how we're executing on our goals, but also every one of their employees. So 30 companies and all of their employees who want to be engaged in PSP. We're constantly looking for ways internally on a day-to-day basis on how to keep them engaged and keep them informed and get their input in a way that makes sense and that we can process. And so we spend a lot of time doing that.
I love that. I also love the focus on education. You and I are both parents and love children. I remember reading recently about the Cal Ripken, just what difference he's making in his program in the school system. Maybe you could explain a little bit about that.
We have learned that historically, our students haven't had access to many of the tools and exciting experiences that, again, some of our friends in the city and urban areas do. And our kids deserve the very best, just like any other region or state or country for that matter. And so we shouldn't be any different. So one of our goals in education is to make sure that students in the Permian are exposed and have access to some of those very same things. Like you said, the Cal Ripken STEM centers, which is one of the reasons we brought them here. If there's anywhere in the country who should have top-notch STEM education, it needs to be the Permian Basin.
Absolutely.
We are the epicenter of STEM, I like to say. And so making sure that we have those access points. But second of all, we have some of the lowest performing schools academically. And again, we should have the highest performing schools academically because of the resources that we have here and because the willpower of parents in our community to do better and to be the best. And so our goal is to have, right now, we have about 40% of our schools are performing at an A or B level. Our goal is to have at least 80 to 85 of our schools performing at an A and B level in a relatively short amount of turnaround time. And so how are we going to do that? We're going to do that by being aggressive on transparency and reading at a third grade level. And if you're not, how can we get you there? How can parents be involved in that decision making? And parents' decision making. Every family should not be forced or be led to think that one type of learning is for everybody, because we know it's not.
Absolutely.
So family choice is really important to us, and making sure that parents in the Permian have access to a lot of great curriculum and a lot of great methods of teaching so that they can make the best choice for their students.
I love that you're pouring into the children on the early age. I know you're also pouring in as they grow into young adults, and your partnership with the University of Texas Permian Basin. We have a gem with UTPB here. And how have you partnered with them, and what difference have you seen with our young adults as they make that next step to their future careers?
Krista, you're so right. Many regions that look like us don't have a UTBB, they don't have a Midland College, and they don't have an Odessa College, or our amazing schools in Southeast New Mexico. And I think they're underutilized, especially when it comes to our workforce. And so partnering with Midland College on our pre-kindergarten lab, that's only one of two, I think, in the country, but certainly in the state of Texas. And we think it's an amazing model because, to your point, we're directly investing in high-quality pre-kindergarten education for our littles. But at the same time, we're also training pre-K teachers to be the very best teachers that they can be. And so, I mean, it's just a win-win. We'd like to see more of those across the Permian. And when it comes to the University of Texas Permian Basin, we've invested in STEM teachers so that we can have more STEM teachers in classrooms, not only in high school and middle school, but ideally in the grade school as well.
I love that. We are sitting here today in Midland, Texas, and I'm so excited. This is our inaugural podcast for the Permian Strategic Partnership. And I wanted to ask you, I'm sitting here today with the president and CEO, Tracee Bentley. I wanted to ask you, how did PSP really develop the key areas? Because I know I've read them before. I know it's safe roads, healthcare, education, workforce, and housing. But how did you zone in on those in the beginning and know that that's what it was going to take to get where you want to be?
Sure. Before PSP publicly launched in the winter of 2018, most of 2018 was spent studying, okay, if we are going to transform the Permian Basin and make it a place where people say, please transfer me to the Permian because I want to live there. They have amazing healthcare, education, great roads, and workforce development opportunities. What do we really need to focus on?
I love that.
And so we hired a group called the McKinsey Group to come in, take a deep dive into not only PSP member company employees, and through our 30 companies and 2 institutions, that's about 85% of the oil and gas workforce here. And so we knew we would have a good sample size there. But we also wanted to know from smaller companies, smaller service companies, companies indirectly related to oil and gas, and also just the community in general. So surveys and studies went out, happened for about a year, and it came back and said, here are your 4 focus areas. I think going into that, we had somewhat of an idea, but the research and data that came back overwhelmingly showed that's where we need to be spending our time.
We mentioned roads. I know we've heard, we hear about TxDOT all the time, and recently the UTP just was released, their partnership. Maybe explain a little bit about that, because sometimes when we're driving around, we get mad at a pothole, right? But we don't understand all that goes into it and all who's responsible for what. And so how is PSP helping with that aspect of TxDOT and UTP?
Yes, a large portion of the transportation funding from Texas comes from oil and gas funding from right here in the Permian. And so much of the road construction and improvements that you see in Dallas, in Houston, and all along the eastern part of our state are being funded by us. And so
the whole state.
The whole state.
Let that sink in for a second.
Yes.
Yes.
And so historically, let's say for the past couple of decades at least, we've noticed a lot of money being spent on that side of the state and not very much on this side. And so we said, instead of we need to show them numbers, and we need to show them the studies about the need for reinvestment here. And so PSP took it upon ourselves to do our then first economic study, and now it's an annual study that we do because it's so important. And we took it to TxDOT and to the governor and said, look at these numbers. If you want us to keep producing what the state and the country, for that matter, is depending on us to produce, we've got to have safer roads, and we've got to have a transportation system that will account for the volume. Yes. Because everybody wins when the Permian keeps producing like we're producing. And so they absolutely understood it immediately and said, let's start reinvesting quickly and heavily in Permian roads so that you all, and first and foremost, can get to work and to school safely. And home. But second of all, let's make it so that transportation, we can get product to market efficiently. And so in the past 5 years, we have seen more reinvestment from the state of Texas in roads than we have in the past probably 3 decades. And that's because we took them the data and we showed them the case. And so you're right, Krista. Some of my friends and family get so frustrated with those orange cones and the construction. And I say, but this is what we asked for.
Yes.
And we desperately need it. And when it's done, just think how much better our drives are going to be.
That's right. And so I love that you brought that up, because I want to put this out here in the Permian. If you see an orange cone, instead of going, go, hey, we're going to have a great new road, right?
That orange cone signals progress.
Progress. I love it. So we're going to look with a smile at those orange cones from today forward. Okay.
Yes.
We're going to do that together as a community. I love that. I also really am happy that you've made roads a focal point, because let's face it, nothing is more important than our loved ones being safe and getting to and from work, and I know safely. And I know that is a big concern for everyone when their loved one goes out the door. So thank you for doing that and keeping the roads safer. So much to talk about. Not sure where to go next. I'm thinking, okay, I have this question. As coming together for the first time with an organization that really you didn't have a blueprint for, right? I mean,
Did not.
There was no. It's not like you came in on day one and said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do," and just like do our to-do list. You really have evolved this organization. And what are you most proud of, Tracee, that you have seen from the 30 companies coming together, and then the billions of dollars that have been used to make our community better?
I am really proud of several things, but at the highest level, I'm proud of the example that these 30 companies and university systems have set. As you pointed out, when we started PSP, we were looking for a model that we could take and adapt to our region and to our companies, and one did not exist, and so we had to build it. And we were building it while we were doing it, because we knew that if we took the time to build it before we did anything, that could have taken 5 or so years. And so we were insistent on getting started immediately. And they really set the example for, it can be any industry. But as long as you have the same values and the same mission and you're willing to put the same effort into it, our model really can be replicated anywhere for any industry or any community. And I'm proud that it happened first right here in the Permian. The second thing I'm really proud of, and it's really fundamental to success, is you have to be willing to pivot. Because when you're building something new, not everything goes like you think it's going to go.
As business owners, I get that 100%.
You get it.
Yes.
And so instead of saying, darn, that didn't work how I wanted it to,
Right.
What you say is, okay, pivot.
Yes.
Let's try this. And you keep trying things until you get the outcome that you want. And it sounds so easy to us, but if you look at the companies that I represent, flexible and is not necessarily one of the things that they are good at all the time. And so I'm so proud of them for PSP taking that aside and saying, we're going to be flexible with PSP and we're going to try new things, and they may not even all work, but we're sure going to try.
I love that.
Yes.
And you don't know if it's going to work if you don't try.
That's exactly right.
Well, I applaud you. Congratulations. It has been just amazing to be, like I said, an outsider in as a community member, watching it grow and watching the change that has been made. And I cannot wait to see where it goes next. Speaking of applauding, you do something called the Permian Applause. And each week when we're on the podcast, we're going to incorporate a little bit of that into the podcast. Tell us a little bit about what Permian Applause is. I love the name because I think everyone needs to be applauded when they do good work, right?
Yes. So a couple of years ago, we would read or hear about really neat, innovative things that were having big impacts on their communities from some of our school superintendents. During COVID, it was from some of our nurses and medical community. Just little tidbits that otherwise maybe would go unnoticed, but had, again, a huge, profound impact actually on our communities. And we wanted to make sure that those were lifted, and so people knew about them outside of PSP. And so we started Permian Applause. And so, like I said before, we've highlighted teachers and superintendents and doctors and nurses. We've highlighted entire departments, like safety departments, for stepping up and doing extra. And so we think it's something that people really enjoy, and something that we look forward to highlighting. And there are so many stories that we could do.
Oh, I can't wait. And that's what is going to be exciting about the podcast as well. What do you hope the goal is for the community, for them to learn through this form of communication?
Two things, really. Number one, I want the community to know that we're having conversations in certainly in Midland and Odessa, but in towns like Crane and Pecos. And so we're not just solely focused on Midland and Odessa, because we know that if we are going to be successful, we have to come together as a region and work together where we can. And we believe in our 4 areas that we can. So this isn't the Midland and Odessa show. We want the entire region to know we're out there, and we're finding areas that we can work together. But second, I want Permian residents, I know we already are, but I want us to be proud of what we're doing. And not proud because necessarily what the PSP is doing, but proud in the way that we're all working together to solve very large and complex issues. We are doing things in the Permian that are not being done anywhere else in the country. So I think we should know about them and find a way to contribute to them if we can.
I think that's fantastic, and I love the reach, the outreach, because you serve Hobbs, you serve Pecos, you serve our region is really, I mean, it's the size of a couple of states together. I mean, it's huge. It really is. When we tell people, oh, you have to drive 8 hours and you're still in Texas, it's shocking. But that is the far reach. But also, we have a worldwide reach with what our region does here for a living. And so I think that it's so important that hopefully we'll have listeners all over the region, the state, and the world. That's what I hope, because I hope that the world can see the great things that PSP is doing for not only the oil and gas industry, but for the community in the world. So
I agree. I know we're going to be worldwide.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited. What makes you excited about the future of the Permian Basin?
Oh my goodness. I've been here for 5 years, and my husband and I fell in love with it. We can't imagine living anywhere else. We don't want to live anywhere else. And what the community has already done, but what is ahead, Krista, for our community, we are going to be the place where people say, please, I want to live in Midland, I want to live in Odessa, I want to live in the Permian, because the people are unmatched, and because they have the most amazing world-class healthcare and education and workforce opportunities. We're going to get there.
Yes. If you had one wish on your wish list, besides people being Permian proud, because I love that. I think we do. We need to always be proud here. What would that one wish list be that you can change here in the Permian through PSP?
I hate to say this, but it's going back to your Permian proud. It genuinely bothers me and hurts a little bit when you're somewhere and people ask, where are you from? I moved from Colorado. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh gosh, why did you do that? Or, it makes me sad. And I wish we would turn the narrative and say, we are so glad you're here. You're going to love it here. We have so many things to offer. I think that would go a long way for us.
I agree. The grass is not greener on the other side. The grass is green where you water it. And you and all the organizations within PSP are doing, you're watering. So thank you for watering the Permian Basin. I love it, and I can't wait to see it continue to grow. I'm so excited. We're coming to the end. I just wanted to ask, is there anything that maybe we haven't talked about today that you feel is really important to our conversation and that you're excited for our listeners to know going forward for future episodes?
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited about future episodes. As we all know, we have a big election coming up in November. I don't care who you vote for, but we should all really care that we all vote, because some really important decisions are made here locally that really determine the fate in the future of not only our cities, but of our entire area. And when we don't vote, we forgo the opportunity to have influence over that. So you're going to hear us talk about the importance of voting and some efforts that we're doing along with that. And then going back to the importance of education, we think it's the single most important issue for our area is public education. And so you're going to hear us talk a lot about that in upcoming episodes and our ideas around helping there.
Well, that was a perfect tease because on our next episode, we are definitely going to talk more about that. And I cannot wait to dive into all the ways that you will help facilitate that here in the Permian Basin. I do want to let everyone know that you can find the PSP everywhere on all social media, LinkedIn. What is the best way for people to reach out and find all the good things that are happening?
Sure. We're at permianpartnership.org. And that has all the great, amazing studies that we spoke about earlier that you can download there, find out more about us. And we are also on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Tracee Bentley, President and CEO of Permian Strategic Partnership. We are so excited. We look forward to continued conversations. We look forward to having the members in the seat, the community partners here in this seat, and everyone who is making a difference to make the Permian better. Remember, the future lies in the Permian, and we are all better together. So let's continue to do the good work and really just encourage each other to love where you live, and that's what we're doing. So thank you. I appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you next time right here on the Permian Strategic Partnership podcast. Have a great day. Thank you for listening to the Permian Strategic Partnership podcast. For more information, go to permianpartnership.org.